Welcome back. My name is Lacey, and today we are going to be doing a practice that is focused on the hands, wrists, arms, shoulders, upper back, all of that area. So it's going to be another heart opening class, and the hands are said to be an energetic extension of the heart. So we're going to be really working with that energy in our practice today. Prop wise, I'll be using 2 blocks. If you don't have blocks, that's okay. Feel free to show up as you are. And that's about it. We'll get started. So set up in a comfortable seat to begin our practice today. That might mean taking a pillow, a cushion, or maybe one of your yoga blocks underneath you, just so that you create a little bit of a lift for the spine. And because we're working with the hands today and some heart opening energy, we're going to be doing some mudras, or some hand gestures. And the first of these hand gestures is one that you'll see often in yoga classes. It's called Anjali Mudra, or gesture of the heart. And it's just a placement of the hands together in a prayer at the center of the chest. And so once you place your hands together at the center of the heart, just start to rub your palms back and forth. So creating a little bit of warmth between your palms. And once you feel like you've got some warmth in your hands, release them and stack them one on top of the other at the center of your chest. And then if it feels comfortable to do so, just close your eyes. And whether you've had a really busy day and this is the first time to connect with your body, or whether you've been doing so all day, just let yourself land here in this moment now. Hi, Blue. And you'll notice Blue is joining for practice today. Hi. Yeah. And so with your hands stacked on top of the center of your heart, you can almost imagine that you're holding on to a furry creature. And there's one right in front of you that you're giving that creature a pet, like I'm doing right now, just to kind of get a bit of that sense of comfort, of that sense of warmth, and invite it in. Notice where the breath is moving in your body. Thank you, Blue. And just see if you can start to draw the breath downward. Breathing in and out the nose. And focusing all your attention on what it means to be here in this present moment. To show up, to be present, to be vulnerable. Okay. You can release your hands from your chest. Blink your eyes back open. Hey, Blue. Yeah. Blue really wants to be part of the practice today. So we're going to be working with just one more mudra in our practice today. And this mudra is called Mukala Mudra. So you can bring your thumb to touch the other 4 fingers on each of your hands. Almost like you're making little beaks with your hands. Yeah. Ooh, you like this one, huh? So bring your fingers to touch your thumbs. Make those little beaks with your hands. And this gesture brings the energy of healing, or it's said to bring the energy of healing to wherever you bring it in your body. So you can just take that gesture and place it at your heart. Yeah, good job. Zip, Blue, zip. And then maybe close your eyes again. And wherever you place your fingers, so you can take this gesture with your fingers and place it to the center of your chest. And then just start to feel the warmth of the fingertips at the center of your heart. And again, breathing in and out your nose and into your body. And now just noticing any emotions that might be surfacing, or any thoughts. acknowledging them, and just allowing yourself to show up. And the heart space is a place of vulnerability, but it's also a place of strength, of compassion, of truth, of love. And so let everything there is in this space be here, be now, be present. Allow yourself to witness it. Good, you can release that mudra of your hands and just start to give your hands a shake off. So as if you're shaking water, flicking water off your fingers. Just start to shake, 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 shake anything off. Shaking out anything, any tension that might be held, that you might be gripping onto in the hands and the arms. Just releasing it. And let that go. And then we're going to, like I said, since we're focusing on the hands, arms, heart, we're going to start even with the fingers. So we're going to stretch the fingers and then work our ways up the arms. So if there's any discomfort in your seat right now, know that we will be here seated for a little while longer. So if you need to, you can change the cross of your legs. And we'll start with the left hand, and we'll just stretch all of the fingers and then move to the wrists. So you can take your right pointer finger and thumb, take it to the tip of your left finger, your left pinky finger, and then just gently draw that finger down. And you'll start to feel maybe some sensation around the bottom of the left pinky finger, moving all the way up the finger. Good, and then release that, take the ring finger, and we'll add some breath now. So take a breath in, and then on your exhale, you can gently draw that finger down. Take your middle finger, take a breath in. Exhale, draw the finger down. Point your finger, breathe in. And draw it down. Thumb, breathe in. And draw it down. Good, take your next hand, pinky finger, breathe in. Exhale, draw it down. Ring finger, breathe in. And draw it down. Middle finger, breathe it in. Draw it down. Point your finger, breathe in. Draw it down. Thumb, breathe in. And draw it out and down. Good, give your hands another shake. Now clasp your palms, one on top of the other, and start to circle your wrists here. And these circles can be as big as feels good in your hands and your wrists, but try to keep the entire palms and heels of the hands connected. And then change the clasp of your wrists so the other thumb comes on top, and circle around the opposite way. Good, and then release that, shake it off again. And then we'll take the wrists one by one. So instead of doing them both at once, take it one at a time. So take your right fingers, clasp your left wrist, make a fist with your left hand, and start to circle it around one way. And this might be a little bit of a deeper stretch of the wrists, or it might not. Just notice the sensation there is here. And circle it the other way. Good, switch hands, circle. And circle. And let that go. And now we'll take another stretch of the wrists. You can take your fingers, let all 10 of them face out, and then start to lean forward. And just paw down onto the earth. So shifting your weight into one hand and then the other. And this might be enough of a stretch as is, or if you feel like you can do a little more, you might play with pointing your fingers towards your body. And keep shifting your weight as you just paw from side to side. And notice what sensation there might be in the wrists and the forearms. And then paw back around towards the front and let that go. And then take the tops of your hands down onto the mat, point your fingers towards one another, and same thing. Just shift your weight side to side. So you're just pawing down on the earth. Either stay like that or start to flip your fingertips towards your body and keep shifting your weight. And if there is already a lot of discomfort in the wrists, if you have anything like carpal tunnel or any injuries to the wrists, these stretches that I'm showing today might not be helpful. They might be a little too much, but you should know your body. So just use your own discretion. And if you don't know if it's good for you or not, always recommend seeing a trained yoga therapist or seeing a physical therapist or medical provider to give you a little more insight, a little more information. So start to flip them back around, and then hands back down to the mat. And then lift yourself back up, give yourself another shake out. Good. And then start to roll your shoulders up, down, and around your back. Just making big circles up, down, and around. And just a few circles forward. And we tend to already make this motion if we're hunched forward typing on computers. So we don't need to do a lot of this forward motion. So take a few more backward just to get that nice opening across the chest. Good, and then just let that go. Then breathe in, shrug your shoulders up to your ears. And breathe out, drop them down. Breathe in, shrug your shoulders up to your ears. And then drop them down. 2 more breaths like that. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Blue thinks it's time to play. All right, come forward onto hands and knees from here. Blue. Coming into tabletop. And once you arrive into tabletop, just start to notice any... What are you doing, Blue? What you doing, Blue? So coming forward onto hands and knees into tabletop, with your fingers pointing forward towards the front of the mat, wrist creases underneath your shoulders. So with this shoulder stacked over wrist, with that alignment, joint on joint, bone stacked on bone, that just creates a strong foundation, creates some stability. And then right away, notice where your weight is. So the tendency can be to dump the weight into the wrists, and this can place a lot of extra strain on your wrists when you do so. So really think about grounding through each of your knuckle pads, pressing down especially through the first 2 knuckle pads, so that space where the bottom of the peace fingers is. Just make sure that is firmly rooted into the mat. Good. And then the same thing for the tops of your feet. Make sure they're firmly grounded as well. And then just start to notice any sensation in anywhere around the upper back. And maybe start to move into that area a little bit. So you might start with a little bit of flexion and extension, so maybe arching and rounding the spine. Inhaling into cow pose, shoulders draw in, heart lifts. And exhaling, pressing down into the mat, spreading through the shoulder blades. Inhale into cow pose, sternum moves forward. Exhale into cat, pressing down and rounding the upper back. 2 more like that. Inhale, cow pose, still pressing down through the finger pads. Exhale, pressing and rounding, finger pads ground, knuckle pads ground. Good, come back into a neutral spine and then swish the hips one direction and the other. Getting a little side body movement. Good. Come back through center and walk your hands forward towards the front of the mat. Keep your legs in the same orientation. So we're coming into puppy dog pose, Anahata Asana. And if it feels like your forehead doesn't ground easily on the mat, you could take a block underneath it. But if it feels okay to allow the forehead to ground all the way, that just creates a little bit of a bigger opening. Still just want to think about drawing the belly button towards the spine here, so there's just a slight hint of engagement through the core, just to keep the low back protected. And breathe in and out the nose here. Good. Walk your hands back. And then tuck the toes, lift the hips, come into downward facing dog. As you do, just to orient here, just to create some stability, just start to pedal the knees, one and then the other. Notice where your weight is in your hands and keep pressing down through each one of the knuckle pads. Way to spread evenly into the finger pads, into the knuckle pads, into each place where the hands ground. Good. So come through center now. Take a deep bend into your knees and let your chest melt towards your thighs. And then see if you can straighten the legs just a little. And then re-bend, melt your heart towards your thighs. And then re-straighten. Then one last time, re-bend, heart towards the thighs. Good. And then lower your knees all the way down into the mat, coming back into all fours. And we'll take a similar stretch for the wrists as we did earlier. So walk your fingertips to face towards the outer edge of your mat. Paw the mat, paw the earth. Move a little side to side. Either stay like that or walk your fingertips all the way around to face toward your body, pawing the earth, moving a little side to side. Either stick with that motion or start to shift your weight a little forward and back. And notice how that changes the sensation through the wrists, through the palms of the hands. Imagine your breath moving into the forearms here. And the next time you lean back, start to peel your palms off the mat. So it's just the fingertips that are grounded now. You might notice that changes things, might change some sensation through the palms. Good, and then slowly press them back down. If this is too intense, you can make this movement a lot smaller. And lean back, lifting the heels of the hands up. And then lean back down. And one more time, lean back. And move forward. And then walk your hands around, fingertips move back towards the front of the mat. Good. And then come down onto your forearms for a moment and just circle your wrists a few times. So as I said, that movement, those stretches for the wrists might be quite intense, so just notice any sensation that came up. Circle the other way. Good, and then palm your hands back down to the mat. Flip the tops of your hands down to the mat. So now the fingertips face one another and the tops of the hands are grounded. And then make Mukala Mudra with your hands again. So make that beak shape with your fingers. Join your fingers to your thumbs and start to shift your weight a little side to side here. Good, and then re-extend your fingers. Either stay here or flip your fingers all the way back to your body. And then start to rock forward and back, forward and back. And again, you might start to notice that intensifies things. So if you need to go back to your fingers facing one another, you can do so. Good, and then flip your fingers towards one another and palms come all the way back down. One more time, come down onto your forearms and circle your wrists out a few times. Good, and circle around the other way. Palm your hands back down to the mat. And then tuck all 10 of your toes under and take a seat onto your heels. So this is a little, or maybe a lot of a stretch for the soles of the feet. If this is too intense, you don't have to do it. Start to flick your fingers. So flicking your fingers really big. Arms can be in whatever orientation feels like this pose can be sustainable. And if it's not, again, you can untuck the toes. And start to flick your fingers a little faster. And the stretch of the soles of the feet is just to kind of distract you from the fire that might start burning in your wrists. So this is a good strengthening move for the wrists. Good, and see if you can keep flicking faster and faster and faster. A few more. Good, release. Shake it up. Release the feet. Tap them out. Okay. And then from here, we'll do one more strengthening exercise for the wrists. So this is called wrist push-ups. You can shift your weight forward into your knuckle pads and just let the heels of your hands lift up. And then replace the heels of your hands, rock back. Shift forward, just the heels of the hands lift. And then rock back. And then just do that a few more times. So you're shifting the weight into your fingertips and knuckle pads, and the wrists lift, heels of the hands lift. Just a few more like that. And release that, let it go. And to release that, you can just shake your hands out one more time. Good. Come back into downward facing dog. So walk your hands another inch or two forward. Tuck your toes, lift your hips to the ceiling. Lengthening out, press down through each of your knuckle pads, grounding firmly. Gaze to your hands, then start to tiptoe your way all the way up to the front of the mat. Release your hands if they were grounded on the mat, and just let your upper body hang forward for a moment. And then either stay here or you can add a stretch of the wrists by shifting your fingers and your hands, your whole hands underneath your feet. So taking Tadasana, hand to foot pose. And then walk your toes up to the creases of your wrists if you have this grip. Let your head hang forward, so chin might move towards your chest. You just nod your head yes, shake it no to release some tension through the neck. And then you might think about rocking your weight a little forward and back. Noticing how that might shift any sensation through the wrists, through the hands. And you might play with wiggling your toes a little here, just kind of massaging out the hands. Release your hands from your feet, soften your knees, and roll yourself up to standing one vertebra at a time. Reach your arms up to the ceiling as you breathe in. Gather your hands into a prayer at the center of your heart, taking Anjali Mudra. And then lift your sternum into your thumb knuckles. Draw your shoulders just slightly backward, opening through the chest, widening across the collarbones. Good. Lift through the crown of your head. Inhale, arms sweep up to the ceiling. Exhale, Anjali Mudra, hands to heart. Inhale, arms lift up. Exhale, hands to heart. Twice more. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, hands to the center of your heart. Last one, sweep up. Hands to heart. And release your arms alongside you. And then we're going to take what is called reverse prayer, reverse namaste. So two options here. You can either take hands to opposite elbows, or for a little more of an intense stretch across the wrists, you can think about drawing that Anjali Mudra into a prayer, or drawing your hands into Anjali Mudra rather, hands into a prayer at your back body. So again, this is going to be a pretty intense stretch across the wrists if you take this variation. If you can get this variation, you might think about sneaking the fingertips a little bit higher up your back, and then think about drawing each of your knuckle pads to press into one another. And then whatever version of whether you have the prayer or whether you have the hands to opposite elbow clasp, we'll take a stretch of the leg. So whatever you have in your hands, keep that. Take your right foot forward, step your left foot back, square your hips forward, lift through your chest. And you just want to make sure your feet are about hips width apart here, so they're not in the same line. Lift through your chest, lift through the crown of your head, breathe in. Exhale, hinge from your hips, lean your upper body forward. Keep lengthening through your spine, opening across the collarbones. Good, press down through your feet to lift your upper body back up. And then step forward, both feet in one line. Slowly release whatever grip you have in the hands. And just flip your palms back forward and let them soften. And then either take opposite elbow clasp from the one you had before, or you can take that reverse namaste, that reverse prayer, drawing the fingertips up, drawing the finger pads towards one another. Step your opposite foot forward. Lift through your chest. Breathe in. And exhale, hinge from the hips, leaning forward, forward, forward. Open through the collarbones. Good. Press through your feet. Lift your upper body up. Release the grip of your hands. Step back forward to the top of your mat. Rotate your palms to face forward, just getting that opposite orientation of the hands. And as you do, notice what happens through the heart. You might start to notice the shoulder blades draw into one another. With the crown of your head, keep lifting, and notice what that action of lifting through the crown of your head does for the heart, the chest as well. Okay. We'll find a little bit of wall space for this next movement. So find a little bit of wall space and come to the side of the wall so your left hips can face to the side of the wall, and take your left hand back at an angle. And the closer you move into the wall, the deeper of a stretch this can become. You can also play with drawing the left fingertips farther back behind you, and that also creates a little bit of a deeper stretch. But this is going to stretch the pectoralis muscles, so the chest muscles on the left side. And just keep your right hand and the rest of your body in kind of a Tadasana mountain pose orientation. So finding some neutrality through the rest of the body and energizing through the left arm, through the left fingertips. And then slowly release that by rotating your body to face towards the wall. And then rotate your right hip to face to the wall. Feet about hips width apart. You might walk your right fingertips back as you open across your chest. Think about softening through the left shoulder, energizing through the right fingertips. And then think about drawing your ribs in towards one another so you're not jutting them out and forward. Good, and then release that. Walk yourself back in to face towards the wall. And then come into Tadasana for a moment. Just noticing any shift in the chest and the upper body. And then one more similar one. So that first one, that's what in Yin we sometimes call broken wing when we do it lying on the belly. And I'll show you that variation in just a few moments. But the next one is sometimes called Starfish. And it's just with the arm at more of a cactus shape. So it's called Starfish when lying on the belly. So Come with your left hip facing towards the wall now. And now take your hand into kind of more of a cactus shape. Think about walking the fingertips back and then drawing your left hip towards the wall. And that still stretches the left pectoralis muscle, but it's just kind of a different stretch. Imagine breathing directly into that muscle that's being stretched. Good, and then rotate your body to face the wall, slowly releasing. Rotate your hips so that they now face, the right hip now faces towards the wall. Take your right arm into a cactus orientation. You might walk the right fingertips back as you draw the sternum forward, as you draw the right hip towards the wall. Big opening for the chest. Breathe down towards the belly. Soften any engagement anywhere in the face, the jaw, and through the left shoulder. And then gently release that. Come back into mountain pose. Press down through the feet, lift up through the crown of the head. Good. And just to get kind of that opposite stretch, so the stretch in the upper back now, we're going to take an eagle pose. The legs aren't quite as important because we're focused more on the upper body than the lower body, but we'll go ahead and do the legs just for fun. So you can shift your weight into your left leg and wrap your right leg over that standing leg. So thigh onto thigh. You can just kickstand the leg, or you can sneak the right toes behind the left calf. Good. Draw your arms into a cactus shape and then press forearm to forearm. Either stay right here or draw your right arm underneath the left. Good. Press the forearms forward. Lift through the crown of your head. And notice any sensation in the upper back here. Breathing into it. And release that. And just give everything a shake out. Releasing any tension that might have built up in the arms, the legs. Rock your weight into your left foot. Wrap your right leg over the left one. I think we just did that one. Wrap your left leg over the right one. Take your arms into cactus. Draw them together. And then wrap your left arm underneath the right one. Forearms move forward. Shoulder blades spread. Breathe into the upper back. And gently release. And shake it out. Okay. Come back into mountain pose. Lift your shoulders up to your ears. And drop them down. Twice more. Lift up. And drop down. One more. Lift up. And drop down. Good. Step back up to the top of the mat. Sweep your arms up to the ceiling. Take Anjali Mudra through you as you fold down over your legs. Halfway lift as you breathe and lengthen through the spine. And then as you exhale, step back into tabletop. Shift your shoulders in line with your hips and draw your elbows alongside your ribs to lower all the way down to your belly. And we'll take broken wing on the belly here. So similar shape to what we did on the wall. Extend your right hand out to the side. So right wrist is in line with your right shoulder. And start to rock your weight onto your right side body. And this might feel really intense being here, so just notice what comes up. And to make this less intense, you can orient your legs so both knees are down on the ground. To make it a little bit more intense, the knees can stack, or you might take your right tiptoes down to the ground behind you. Good. Release that, rock back through center. And then reach your left fingertips out to the side. Rock onto your left hip. Either both knees down to the ground or knees stack. Or your right toe tips come back behind you. Breathe here. Nice. One more stretch. Move back through center. Take your right arm into a cactus shape and then rock to your right side body. This might be a little more intense, just depending on your own body. So you don't have to go to your deepest depth. And especially in these stretches that are really intense and these shapes that are really intense, going to the deepest depth right away can be counterproductive. So just be with the minimum sensation that you need. Good. Come back through center. And then onto your left side. Arm comes into a cactus shape. And your right fingertips here can press onto the mat to kind of direct the intensity of the stretch. And slowly back through center. Draw your hands down to the mat alongside your ribs. Come into just a baby cobra, peeling the heart off the mat. And then press your way back into child's pose from here. And we're going to come back into Anahata or heart melting pose. But we're going to do it with props this time if you have them available. So I'll show you a setup for this with a bolster. And with a blanket. So, two options for the blanket. You can either use that as over your hips for a little bit of padding, or it can come underneath your knees if you have any kind of sensitivity in the knees. You'll just walk yourself forward over your bolster and melt your forehead down to the bolster, or cheek can come to one side. And it can be nice to have a prop here because we'll be in this shape for, oh my goodness, I blew for a little longer this time. So you do not want to be at 100%. Oh, wow. You're doing the pose too, Blue. At 100% right away when you're in shapes for longer. Kind of more of a 4, even 3 out of a 10 is what you're looking for when you get into more of the yin zone. You're holding shapes for a longer time. But you still do kind of want to have well, the alignment doesn't matter as much in these longer held shapes, but you do want to have some awareness of what's happening with your alignment. So more or less hips stacked over knee, but it doesn't have to be perfect. And we'll just be here for several more breaths. Any kind of intensity, notice if you can soften it. And if your cheek is to one side, you can switch it to the other side. I'll just be in here in the shape about another minute. And so notice if in this last minute there's anything you can do to invite more ease, more comfort. press your fingertips into the mat to lift yourself back up. We're going to set up for our final resting shape now for our Shavasana, and the offering for our Shavasana is one more heart opener. So if you have yoga blocks, you can set them up for a little bit of a heart bench. So one block can come to the highest height at the back of the mat, second block can come to the medium height, and this will go in between your shoulder blades. And it's nice if you have foam blocks here to invite a little bit of softness into the shape. If you have, just watching Blue play with the cat, that's what the noise is if you hear that. If you have extra blankets, one can come to the back of the head, to cradle the back of the head, to almost be like kind of a pillow for the head. But if not, if you're working with a foam block, that's okay. But you'll come to lie over your 2 blocks. If you have another blanket, you can place it over your hips as well for a little bit of warmth across the abdomen. 1 block in between the shoulder blades, second to the back of the skull. And then if you have that blanket over your hips, lift it up so it covers your heart as well. Point flex your toes a few times. And let your legs soften. You can flutter the knees a little to invite a little more softening through the legs. And then draw your arms overhead, breathe in. Exhale, cactus your arms come alongside you and then into your heart. 2 more times like that. Inhale, reach your arms big overhead. Exhale, cactus the arms wide alongside you and hands to heart. 1 more time, breathe in, yawn the fingertips up, maybe point the toes. Exhale, soften the legs as you cactus the arms. Draw your hands to heart. And release your arms alongside you to a place that feels grounding. Tops of the hands can ground. Shoulder blades can soften down to the mat. Breathe down into your belly. And as you're starting to invite quiet in to the body, to the mind through your Shavasana, I'll read you some words from the wise old Mary Oliver, a poem called When the Roses Speak, I Pay Attention. As long as we are able to be extravagant, we will be hugely and damply extravagant. Then we will drop foil by foil to the ground. This is our unalterable task, and we do it joyfully. And they went on. Listen, the heart shackles are not as you think. Death, illness, pain, unrequited hope, not loneliness, but lassitude, wound, vainglory, fear, anxiety, selfishness. Their fragrance all the while rising from their blind bodies, making me spin with joy. Big breath into the heart. Let it out the lips. Breathe in the heart. Out the lips. Shavasana. And just begin to invite a bit of gentle movement back. Wiggling fingers, toes on your arms back overhead as you point the toes forward, maybe lengthening out through one fingertip and the other. Good. Rock to one side and lift yourself up to seated. Find a long, tall spine, lifting up through the crown of your head, and then reach your arms up to the ceiling. Exhale, hands to heart. Inhale, arms lift. Exhale, hands to your heart. Last time, arms lift on your breath in. Hands come into Anjali Mudra at the heart center. And bow to the teacher within. Thank you so much for joining for our practice today, and I will see you next time.